Hello and welcome. Today, we're diving into something that could affect every single driver in the UK. It's a huge proposed shakeup of car tax called pay per mile.
So let's just get straight to the point. What if every single mile you drive, to the shops, to work, on the school run, was tracked and taxed? It sounds pretty futuristic, I know, but it is a very real idea being seriously discussed to solve a massive problem facing the country.
Now, to help us get our heads around all of this, we're going to be walking through this excellent guide put together by the experts at ProTax Accountant. They've crunched all the numbers and laid out the facts so we can get a really clear picture of what this can mean for you and your wallet.
So here's our roadmap for today. First up, we'll look at the giant money problem that's forcing this whole conversation. Then we'll break down how pay per mile would actually work. We'll explore who wins and who loses, get into the big debate, see what's really happening in 2025, and finish up with some practical next steps. Let's get into it.
Right then, first things first. Why on earth are we even talking about a completely new way to tax our cars? Well, it all starts with a number so big it's impossible for any government to ignore.
£35 billion. That isn't a typo. That is the colossal amount of tax revenue the government is on track to lose every single year by 2040. This isn't just a small budget gap. It's a financial black hole, and it's being caused by a quiet revolution happening on our roads right now. So, where does the government get its money from drivers at the moment? It's pretty much two big pots. You've got fuel duty, that tax you pay at the pump, which rakes in a whopping £25.2 billion. And then there's vehicle excise duty, or VED, what we all just call road tax, which adds another £7.4 billion. But one of these pillars is beginning to crumble.
And here's the culprit, the switch to electric vehicles. It's amazing that over 1 million of us are now driving EVs. It's brilliant for the environment. But here's the financial catch. EVs don't use petrol or diesel, which means they don't pay a penny in fuel duty. So every new EV on the road chips away at that massive £25 billion pot.
And here's a quick did you know for you. That 52.95 pence per litre tax on fuel, it has been frozen since way back in 2011. For over a decade, it's been a super reliable cash cow for the Treasury. And that's exactly why its slow and steady disappearance is causing such a massive headache and sparking this entire debate.
Okay, so the problem is clear. A giant tax shortfall is looming. So let's move on and look at the proposed solution. How would a pay-per-mile system actually work in the real world?
You know, the first question everyone asks is, how would they track me? Well, there are four main ideas being floated. They could use telematics, those little black boxes that some insurance companies use. Think of it like a Fitbit for your car. Or it could be a simple GPS app on your smartphone. There's also the old school approach, just noting down your odometer reading at your annual MOT. And finally, they could use the massive network of ANPR cameras already on our roads. All right, let's talk about what really matters, the cost. The average UK driver does about 6,500 miles a year and currently pays a flat road tax of around £195. Now look at this. At a speculated rate of just 6 pence per mile, that annual cost doubles to £390. At 15 pence, it shoots up to nearly £1,000. But here's the twist. If you were an EV driver and the rate was, say, 2 pence, you could actually pay less. The rate per mile is absolutely everything.
This is where the theory really hits the road. Because a change this big is never going to affect everyone in the same way. It's going to create a clear divide. Depending on your lifestyle, there will be winners, and there will definitely be losers.
The split is pretty stark. On one side, you have potential winners. These are people who don't drive very much, city dwellers, retirees, people who just use the car at the weekend. Their annual bill could actually go down. But on the other side, you've got the high mileage folks, people in rural areas with no public transport, sales reps, delivery drivers, tradespeople. For them, this could be a major financial blow.
So let's put a face to this. Meet Lisa. She's retired, she lives in Birmingham, and she only does about 1,500 miles a year, visiting family and going shopping. At that 6p per mile rate, her annual car tax would be just £90. That's more than £100 cheaper than what she pays now. So you can see why she, and millions of others like her, would see this as a much fairer system.
Now, let's look at the other side of the coin. This is Raj. He's a self-employed plumber in a rural part of Norfolk, and he clocks up 15,000 miles a year just getting to jobs. His van is his livelihood. For Raj, that same 6p rate means a tax bill of £900. That's a huge jump from £195, and it's a cost that could seriously damage his business.
This brings us perfectly to a pro tip from the team at ProTax Accountant.
Whatever happens with this new tax proposal, if you use your vehicle for work, you should start logging your business mileage accurately right now. It's a fantastic habit to get into. It can save your money on your current tax bill, and it would put you in a much stronger position if pay per mile ever becomes a reality.
So as you can see, this is a really complicated issue with some very passionate arguments on both sides. It's not a simple case of right and wrong. So let's zoom out and break down the great national tax debate into the key pros and cons.
The arguments in favor are pretty strong. First, there's fairness. The idea that you pay for what you use seems simple and right to many people. It could also encourage us to use greener travel, maybe cut down on car journeys, which would be great for CO2 emissions and traffic. And of course, it solves that massive £35 billion problem, making sure there's money for roads, schools, and hospitals.
But the arguments against are just as powerful. As we saw with Raj, it could really punish people in rural areas and essential workers who have no choice but to drive. Then there's the big privacy question. A recent survey found 60% of drivers are worried about being tracked by the government. For small businesses, it could be a crippling new cost. And let's face it, it would be a much more complicated system to run than what we have now.
Okay, so after all that debate, where do things actually stand right now? We're seeing 2025 on the screen. Is this just around the corner? Let's look at the official timeline and try to read the political tea leaves.
This timeline really puts everything into perspective. We've had that frozen fuel duty since 2011. Recently, the Chancellor publicly said there are no plans for road pricing. But here's a definite change. From April 2025, EV owners will have to start paying road tax for the very first time. And the big date looming over all of this is 2035, the ban on new petrol and diesel car sales. That's the point this tax problem really becomes a crisis.
So, this is the ultimate question, isn't it? Is this really going to happen? Officially, the government line is no plans. But the hard reality is that the $35 billion problem is not going away. Most experts agree that some form of road pricing is pretty much inevitable. The government might be quiet on it now, but as more and more EVs hit the road, their hand could be forced a lot sooner than we think. We have covered a huge amount of ground today, so let's wrap this all up by pulling out the most important points and sharing some clear, actionable advice from the experts at ProTax Accountant. So, here are the 4 key things to take away. 1. The amazing switch to electric cars is creating a $35 billion hole in the country's finances. 2. Pay per mile is the main idea to fix it, but the all-important price per mile is a complete unknown. 3. This would create winners and losers based entirely on your personal situation. And 4. Even though the government says no plans right now, this issue is definitely not going away. The most important takeaway is that tax changes like this are complex and can have a real-world impact on your money. If you're a business owner like Raj, or even if you just want to understand how this might affect your household budget, getting professional advice is always a smart move. The team at ProTax Accountant are the experts who provided all this great information, and their contact details are right there on the screen. Feel free to reach out to them. And finally, for more updates on this and other important financial topics, make sure you subscribe to the ProTax Accountant YouTube channel. The debate over road pricing is far from over. The only thing we know for sure is that the way we pay for driving is going to change. The big question isn't if, it's when. Thanks for watching.